My name is Ella, and I'm here to talk about the allophones of T. We are all familiar with the T sound, which is the voiceless sound. We pronounce it at the beginning of words like time, talk, today. The tip of the tongue taps behind the front teeth or the TDN location and then releases a puff of air like this. Ta. But notice how T is pronounced differently in the following words: top, stop, metal, right, mountain, and X. What is the difference between the six T's? Top, the T is aspirated. Stop, the T is unaspirated. Metal, the T is a flap or tap. Right, the T is unreleased or stop. Mountain, the T is a glottal. X, the T is silent or omitted. Every language has phonemes and variants of that phoneme, which we call allophones. An allophone is a set of multiple possible spoken sounds in phonology. Therefore, the phoneme T can be pronounced in several different ways or allophones, depending on where it falls in a word and depending on the other sounds that follow it. For instance, it can sound like a D. Duh. It can be stopped. It can be silent. And it can even change to a different sound when followed by certain sounds. In terms of phonemes, they are considered to be the same sound, although they are different phonetically in terms of aspiration, voicing, and point of articulation. So, by introducing and explaining the different allophones of T, students would be able to produce the T sound more accurately. So, what are the rules for the different allophones of T, or I would say the different environments? So, the first is aspirated T. This sound comes with a force of H with it. This typically happens with initial or stressed syllables in English. It also happens after a consonant, except N. How do we make the aspirated T sound? So, as mentioned a while ago, um, this is how we do it. So, first, touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth just behind your top front teeth, or what we call the TDN location. And then immediately pull your tongue back and downward to release a puff of air. Now we'll say ta with our hand in front of our mouth. Now, if you feel a burst of warm air on your hand, the instant after you say it, you're doing it right. So the aspirated T sound appears in different environments. The first one, when the word starts with T, such as table, talk, take, tango, tap, tea, teach, two. And the second point is when it is at the beginning of a stressed syllable. For instance, attach, pretend, italic, and many other words. The third point is that when it's after a consonant, except for N and S. For instance, actor, doctor. The second kind of allophone is the unaspirated or unreleased T, And the stop T. Usually, an aspirated consonants are left unmarked. So, how do we make an aspirated T? Touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth, just behind your top front teeth or your TDN location. Then stop your tongue and don't release that final puff of air. So, if this is your TDN location, this is your tongue, touch, don't release, just touch. So, when when is the letter T pronounced with the unaspirated and stop T sound? It appears at the end of a word. When T is the final letter in a word, we pronounce it as what is sometimes called a stop T. For example, amount, bit, bought, can, cat, don't, hot, lot. Another example is when it's before and after S. For example, bats, boats, cats, meets, starts, steep, stop, store. Now, the third allophone is what we call the tap T or the flap T. How do you make the alveolar flap sound? First, explain to the student what tap means. Like tap means a light, quick touch. Then explain, touch the tip of your tongue lightly and quickly to the roof of your mouth. This is your TDN, light touch, making a light and quick D sound. It is also much closer to the sound of R in the Japanese syllables rarerurero. Now, when is the letter T pronounced in the tap T? So when it's between two vowels, for instance, butter, city, hotter, matter, meeting, water. Second point, when it's after a vowel plus R sound, sometimes called the R colored vowel. For example, charter, comforting, dirty, quarter, 30. And third point is that when it's before the syllabic L, in other words, before the unstressed O sound. For example, battle, bottle, capital, fatal, hospital, rattle, metal, turtle. Now, the fourth one is when it's in a phrase or a sentence that is before the stressed vowel at the start of the next word. For example, know it all, miralis, not on, what are you doing?